All right, welcome back. In this video, we're going to go over the kidney and the nephron. This is going to be an introductory video to the kidney and the nephron. We're going to take basically a deeper dive in the future videos because we have a lot to go over. But we're going to make it as easy and simple as possible. So you probably know that the kidney is involved in waste excretion and urine production. But the kidney actually does a lot more than that. It's involved in blood pressure regulation, making hormones, acid-base balance, controlling solutes, and even vitamin D metabolism. However, the kidney itself actually does not do jack. It doesn't do anything. It's actually all about the nephron. So what do I mean by this? So let's think about it like this. Think about the kidney as a factory. So this house-looking thing is a factory. Think about this as the kidney. But the people working inside the factory are the nephrons. They're the ones actually doing the work. The kidney is just a housing structure or just a building. But the kidney is housing the nephrons so they can do their job. That's literally what it is, what's happening in our body. The kidney is a housing structure to house the nephrons. So here we have a typical picture. You would probably see of a kidney. You have two kidneys. Humans have two kidneys, and yes, you can live with one. And there's an artery and a vein that goes inside the kidney. So if you were to take a cut and you look inside the kidney, the artery that enters the kidney is called the renal artery. It's this right here. The vein that leaves the kidney is called the renal vein. There's also a tube that leaves the kidney as well, and this is called the ureter. So any urine production goes into the ureter and then basically goes all the way to the bladder, and then you would pee it out. So that's what the ureter is for. Now, there's a lot of actually components of the kidney, but what I want you to focus on for physiology, since it's not an anatomy class, is the renal cortex and the renal medulla. So the outside light pink or part of the kidney here is called the renal cortex. And these little dark pink looking pockets are called the renal medulla. And so what's happening is little baby arteries called arterioles or baby veins called venules actually surround these little pockets or renal medullas. And the renal cortex and the renal medulla is where the nephrons live. There are millions of them in the kidney. The nephron is just tube pipe structure, curly, windy pipe, basically. We have millions of these in the kidney, and this is what does the work of basically everything I listed here, as well as waste excretion, urine production. It's the nephron that does all this. There are millions of these inside the kidney, located in the cortex and the medulla as well. Literally everywhere. And so we're going to talk about the nephron now. So this is the nephron. The nephron is made up of 5 segments. Think about this as one long sewer tube or sewage system or a pipe, like a sewage pipe. Very long, made up of 5 segments that all do different things. This tends to be a little bit complicated for most students, but we're going to take it slow. And in this video, I'm just going to go over the really basics, the very, very much overview. And then the later videos, I want to make basically videos on each segment so we can really dial down and crack on it. Okay, so here's what's happening is the arteriole that I mentioned earlier enters the nephron. And the first segment of the nephron is called the glomerulus. It's this orange orb-looking thing. So the entering arteriole is called the afferent arteriole, and the efferent arteriole is the one that leaves the glomerulus. So the job of these arterioles is actually really unique. It's really cool, actually. So say if your body wants to filter more blood, For example, say if we want to get rid of stuff and we really want to filter stuff out, what we can actually do is we can constrict the arterioles, creating more pressure. And the pressure that's created inside actually forces fluid into these tubes, into the nephron itself. This way we can filter more. Or say if our body does not want to filter, we want to keep a lot of our solutes in our blood, well, we can actually dilate these vessels and make them bigger, causing less pressure, and then we get less filtration. For example, if let me give you an example like blood pressure. Say our blood pressure is too low. Well, we don't want to be filtering stuff into this nephron and peeing it out, because we're going to be losing fluid. Since we have low blood pressure, we need as much fluid as possible in our arteries and basically blood vessels. So why do we want to filter out and pee it out? We want to keep as much of it as we can. So instead, we're not going to filter as much, and we're going to dilate these vessels to create less pressure so more of it exits. That's the importance of the glomerulus here. So now we're going to enter the PCT, which is the next step. So anything in this tube now, anything that has entered in this tube going all the way to the end will become urine. And all of this would go into the ureter and into the bladder, and then you would pee it out. So now we have the PCT. It's the second segment here in the nephron. And the goal of the PCT here is reabsorption. So notice that we have hydrogen ion and an NH3 here. So say if our body is a little too acidic, what we can do is actually pump hydrogen ions into here, because remember, hydrogen ions make blood acidic. What we can do is pump it inside this tube, and then we can pee it out later. So we lower the acidity in our blood. It's quite genius. There's also, we can do a bunch of other stuff, but another thing, just to sum quickly, is nutrients. So say if some nutrients has accidentally went into this tube because of the pressure, we force nutrients into the nephron. Well, we actually have a chance here to bring it back outside to the blood, because there's arterioles, baby arteries running out through this entire nephron. I just didn't draw it out for simplicity, but it's drawn here. We have these little baby arteries that are going everywhere around the tube. So what we can do is we can have these nutrients that are stuck in this tube. We can actually push them out into the arteries, or into the arterioles for our blood, for our body to use, so it doesn't go to waste. It can do a bunch of other stuff, but that's like the gist of it. Then we have the loop of Henle. The loop of Henle is where if our body needs water, like we're dehydrated and we need water, why would you want to pee it out? You would just become more dehydrated. So the loop of Henle exists. So just in case you're dehydrated, any water in this tube can actually leave. It can leave the tube and enter our blood, so we're not dehydrated. Or we can basically counter the dehydration. So it's a chance for water to leave here. Now, here as well, sodium chloride can also leave. So say if we need salt in our blood. Say we're low blood pressure, or we just need solutes. We can actually have the sodium chloride leave the loop of Henle and enter our bloodstream. So all of this you're probably getting now is a backup system. All of this nephron exists as a backup system. So just in case if we need nutrients, just in case if our blood's acidic, if it's basic, if we need more solutes in it, maybe we need less solutes in it, maybe we need more water or we need less water, all of this is for a backup system. This is our last chance to get stuff back into the blood before we pee it out. That's what all this is. So then we have the DCT, distal convoluted tubule. That's after the loop of Henle, and this is the last time we can have any reabsorption. So notice that we can have potassium ions and hydrogen ions enter. We can also have water leave if we need it. We can also have HCO3 if we need it. These PCT and DCTs, they basically need their own video because they can do a lot of stuff. Now it's the collecting duct. The collecting duct is the last station. It's the last part of this tube. And this is very important for hormones, like ADH, which we're going to go into later. ADH works on the collecting duct. And here is where we have sodium reabsorption. So say if we are in dire need of, say if we have low blood pressure and we're in dire need to raise our blood pressure, this is our last chance to get some sodium into our blood. Because remember, we just want to fill our blood with something, with some kind of substance to raise our blood pressure. So this is the last step before we pee it out that our body can use to raise our blood pressure. And that's what ADH does in a gist. And then the lower tube as well, the lower section, if we need water, this is our last chance to collect any residual water in this tube before we pee it out, just in case if we need it. You're also wondering why urea? Well, actually the same point is that we actually need urea in our blood, but only a little bit. But say for low blood pressure, we need a lot of stuff back into our blood. We need anything possible in our blood to raise the blood pressure. So we're going to even put urea back in. Not too much, because we don't want to get, acidic and die, but just a little bit. Just to fill our blood vessels up so we can increase blood pressure. And that is basically the quick overview of the nephron. In future videos, we're going to go over each and every section in depth. Because I only told you maybe like 20% or 30%. There's a lot more to this. But this is like the very brief overview that I tried to give. I'm actually pretty impressed with myself that I was able to do this, because it's actually a lot of information. But until next time, later.